Alrighty, welcome back to another video. The time has come to pull the transmission. Earlier today, we went to a couple car shows, had a good time, and well, after driving around for a bit, determined it's definitely time to go ahead and address whatever's going on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So, my 2007 GT500, this is part one, well part two technically, of transmission rebuild. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, as you see now, I have it up on jack stands. Feels a little bit sketchy, but it's pretty solid. All the wood underneath is screwed together. It's not sliding out anywhere. And it's kind of slowly creeped it up until I got it up to where I think I'll have enough room to get the trans out. I don't know if the trans jack I have is going to work. I may need a lower profile one, but we'll see. Come to that later. But yeah, guys, so able to access the doors so I can get in there. The mounting points for the jack stands are underneath the seam right there. There's a spot. Same spot the lift goes. They would mount it there on the back seam. I have my rear jacks on the axle itself underneath the control arms. So pretty solid. The back's pretty light end, so I'm not worried about that. And the front's good. A little sketch, but we're gonna go ahead and get into the trans removal. So I haven't done a transmission removal on this car ever. I do know there's quite a few things that are gonna need to come out. So let me go and get some light set up, slide underneath the car, and start working. All right, so underneath my car, if you haven't pulled the transmission before, I highly suggest watching a better video than mine. But I'm going to take you through the generic run through as best I can. So on these S197s, I know the GTs are similar. I have long tubes on mine, but they're nice and out of the way, so they shouldn't have any interference. Some of them are a problem with that, so we got to be careful. But I'm going to go ahead and remove the X pipe. So bolt there, bolt here, 4 bolts here, and that'll let me remove the X pipe slash, I don't know what you want to call it, mid pipes, I guess. And then we go ahead and remove these rear pipes as well. I'm not going to fully remove the rear pipes. I think they'll be fine as they are, but I'm going to unbolt them, and they're probably just going to dangle here. And might unbolt them from the axle back there, which I'll show you if I wind up doing. And while I'm looking at this, probably we'll knock that out. So a couple other little maintenance things I want to do while I'm down here. We're going to have the drive shaft out. It's a Shaft Masters drive shaft, but it does have, actually feels pretty good. I've been feeling like a vibration, and these aluminum drive shafts are known to have vibration issues. So I'm going to go ahead and have yeah, there's a little bit of play, but not much. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and have it balanced just to make sure it's good. There is a balancing, welded on balancing spot here, but I want to make sure that everything's happy. Check the U-joints, all that stuff on both the flange. And there's a couple local shaft shops I'll take it to so they can go ahead and address it, make sure it's good. So just to double check on that, so make sure there's no weird vibration-y stuff going on with the drive line. And I think that's about it. But yeah, the main goal is get this Tr6060 out of here. So we'll be getting there. There's a little bit of fluid stuff here. That's from when I did my seal back there. Probably drive line vibration related, but no worries. Also, a couple of little tidbits. O2 sensor wiring runs down through here. Make sure you don't mix up your O2 sensors. It sounds stupid, but a tuner that I work with, BJ, said that he has seen it on multiple cars where people have pinch wiring and all sorts of other weird stuff. So we're gonna make sure we address that. And then lastly, this is the Shea brace down here. The thing is for sale. As of posting this video, I'm gonna pull it off. Works fine, but I really don't see a benefit for it on my car. It does transmit some noise through the solid bushings straight up from the trans to the body of the car, a little more NVH. What it's supposed to do, if you don't have solid motor mounts, I don't have solid motor mounts, but it's supposed to keep everything from torquing around. It probably does just fine. But my shifting issues, I'm positive are not from that, because I didn't notice the difference before or after. So if that's a problem on your car, feel free to pick it up. If it's not a problem, then, well, don't worry about it. And realistically, probably wouldn't worry about it. Not a great sales post, but yeah. So that's this brace coming off, all the parts and everything. I have my old one underneath the workbench over there. And other than that, I think that's everything. No more rambling. Let's go and get going. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery up top side. I won't video that. There's no point, because we're going to have to take off the starter and some other stuff. And then we'll move into the X pipe removal. Get some clearance down here. So let's go ahead and get after it. All right, quick tip when you're disconnecting your battery, make sure your ground's off or positive. It really doesn't matter, but I took my ground off. Make sure you crack each of your doors before you take the battery off. The S97, there's a nice little seam right here. And if you have it, notice there's a nice gap right here. automatically brings the window down, or just put your windows down before you pull it down. Keeps you from having to try and tear up any of this stuff or break your window when you try to slam the door shut and the glass is up too high. Super dumb, but I've forgotten to do it every single time until this time to actually, do that. So that's done. Let me go ahead and work on the X-pipe next. All right, X-pipe's out. Not too bad. Broke one bolt. I'm gonna get new hardware anyway, so it's no big deal. Next up, we're gonna go ahead. I think I'm gonna go ahead and remove the drive shaft next. The more I'm looking at stuff, seems to make sense and it's pretty accessible. So I did unplug one sensor right there. Comes off of this harness, and that's for, I believe, the output speed shaft sensor. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and knock out. We're gonna take out these 4 bolts. I'm gonna put it in neutral so I can spin this thing over. And then there's 6 bolts back there we got to knock out. And we'll have the drive shaft out. All right, checking out our drive shaft. No weird play or anything. Feels good. Nice and smooth. A little bit of resistance. Nothing clunking around. Same thing on this side. Nice and smooth. No clunking around. So, drive shaft should be good. We'll go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and bring it to shop just to make sure everything's nice and balanced. I can see a weight here and a weight here, but never be too safe. So just see if that's our driveline vibration, if anything's weird. Just I want to check out our diff. This is from the rebuild we did a while back, about a year ago now. Everything feels nice and tight. No in and out or weird play or anything in there. So looks like that held in just fine, which is good. So what I was doing to be able to manipulate everything, I left the brakes on, obviously wheels and tires are on. And I'd rotate it, pull the e-brake, be able to get my bolts out, and just continue that pattern until it's eventually done. Underneath here, this is our Barton shifter on the bottom side. So a while back, replaced this bushing right here, which took out some slop. But this play right here, you can see is actually coming from down further that way. It reuses the stock shaft. So the top half's the Barton piece, and this is all stock as far as I'm concerned. The MGW has its own, I guess, lip that shoots out of here that comes out more straight and connects directly to the trans. So definitely a worthwhile upgrade. If you haven't got one yet, MGW version 2, I believe is what they're on, is the way to go. And these little guys right back here have a little bit of play right there. So we'll go ahead and investigate that when it comes down, but just here tracking. I'm gonna leave my shifter ball and everything attached, I think. There's a plate up here, which I'm entirely sure yet. I can double check, see what I'm looking at. We should be able to just take the, well, we'll see how this goes. I might honestly detach it from here. I might just actually detach it. Actually, yeah, for a shift removal, I'm just going to remove this bolt, leave this whole piece up top, and remove these 2 bolts and leave that on the trans. I think it'll be the easiest way to pull this off. So honestly, we can do that now. There's no reason not to. It's in neutral. In theory, you should be able to shift it down here, but that's a little bit extra. All right. Also on this clip, I started messing with it a little bit. There are 2 clips, one on this side, one on the other side. So I was getting pulled off this one and I couldn't get it off. That's why. Just something to be aware. So let's go ahead and keep moving. I'm going to go ahead and pop off the shifter stuff next, I think, just so I don't forget about it. So these 2 bolts and this 1 bolt should be easy enough. All right, shifters are connected. Pretty easy for me anyway. Good old bolt right here, everything nice and tight still. Undid these two, just kind of hangs here. We'll see if that can get tightened up at all if we need to. A little bit of play in here, but not too bad. And pop the bolts back in there for safekeeping. So looking at this, I think the next thing I'm gonna do, got two things I wanna do. So I'm looking at the O2s again. I think they're gonna have to come out for clearance for the bell housing. I mean, yeah, I don't really want to beat them up, and then I'm going to wind up going ahead and replacing with a new set anyway. I don't know if you can see that orange in there, but there's a good bit of crap in here from running the octane booster. And although it doesn't necessarily eat up O2s, I'm just going to replace them anyway, just to make sure we have some nice fresh stuff in here when we fire it back up. So, new O2 is going to get replaced. These are NTK, I believe they're an OEM equivalent front O2s, and I'm also going to remove this Shea brace. So just to get it out of my way, knock out. I'm just going to do these top bolts, one here, and then this big bolt, and this whole thing should come out of the way, and clear up some space that way. So let's keep going. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and get the brace out of there. So that's over there. Got the O2s undone. One's here, one's right there. Next time I think I'm gonna get the starter out. So the starter's got one for the solenoid, it looks like, one, and then the power wire right there. So we're gonna undo those. Probably 8 and 10 mil if I'm looking at it right. And then I don't know if we have 2 or 3 starter bolts. I imagine probably 3 on most. One's here, one's right next to the headers right here, which is going to be a turd to get out. There's probably one on top here if I had to guess, but I can't quite reach it, so mess around there, see if I can't figure out how to get that guy out. Yeah, I feel one, so that's going to be interesting. We'll see how that goes, and get those guys out next. I may have to take out the battery in all honesty and go from the top. We shall see, but let's go ahead and knock this out next. All right, starters out. So you see our 3 bolt spots, one up there, there, and there. I want to be using a 1/4 inch ratchet and an extension to kind of reach over top of the starter to get to that top bolt. And it wound up working. Kind of pain in the butt, but we're done. See the headers up there. And yeah, there's really no way to get to that bolt from the top, unfortunately. So it is what it is. But here's our good old starter. See a lot of dust and stuff built up around it. I imagine clutch dust, so I don't know if we'll clean it up or not, but it is what it is. So that's done. I wanted to go ahead and take a little break and then get back out here and get back at it and see what we want to do next. All right, so I went ahead and detached this plug. This is the one I actually broke that tab off. We still have 1 tab holding on at least. That went back in there. This one we went ahead and detached because the O2 sensor, other O2 sensor, front O2 sensor, the other O2 sensor still attached. This goes, I think it's a reverse lockout solenoid, but I'm not 100% sure. On this side, detached. I need to get a pair of pliers or something to clean off some of this tape and some other crap. But it does hook into the trans right there, so we can either cut the tape or we can pull this thing out. It's just a push thing. So I'll see if we can wiggle it out, I guess. Well, we'll see. I'm probably gonna end up cutting the tape and then retaping it afterwards. Yeah. What I want to do next though, right here is the drain plug on the Tr6060. So I'm going to go ahead and drain the fluid out while it's still in an optimal position to move it. And then I'm going to start, probably next, take out this brace, or the transmission mount, so we can start lowering it down back a little bit and start getting more clearance for all the bolts up around in here. So, yep, one thing at a time though, we're getting there for sure. All right, if you haven't drained the transmission up before, good time to always change the fluid. Do it fairly regularly, but just a regular, I think it's a 3/8 inch ratchet, fits right in the hole, and then, oops, you just gotta go ahead and pop it in reverse. Really nothing to it. And then I got my drain can below it. So it should be good. It just takes Mobile One, ATF, I believe. Amazon makes one, Motorcraft. Oop. Some suction in there, good grief. That's bad. Oh yeah, she looks super clean, which is awesome. Probably because all my synchros materials already been flushed out of previous stuff, so no worries. We'll let that drain out. I think it takes 3 quarts, and I have to pick up some more for putting it back together. So let that go. Pop the plug back in, so that's down there. And let's go and move on to the next thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the jack under here and undo these bolts and transmission mount, get that thing out of here. Alright, so easiest way to figure out how many bolts there are and where they are is just to Google a picture of a Tr6060, specifically GT500, and start finding the bolts. So I can see 2 down here. These are for the, I guess, flywheel cover, for the lack of a better word. And then I got 2 here that I can feel, and there's probably another one toward the top of the bell housing. So I was really trying to avoid putting the trans jack in the way, because once it's in the way, it's in the way forever. But I think it's unavoidable, so I'm just going to start pulling out bolts and see you guys on the other side. It's going to be a turd for sure. There's not much clearance up in here. Alright, for better for worse, I'm able to get my extension up along the side of the transmission up to the top side. I can stick my hand in around here to try and reach up and guide it on, and it's working, but holy crap, that sucks. And I gotta do the same thing on this side somehow. Alright, so I was able to get the 2 top bolts out. The next thing I'm looking at, so I don't know if you can see that shiny line right up in here, that one right there. So that is my clutch line. So I need to figure out how to get that thing off. On the top side, I took a pair of locking jaw pliers and put it on the clutch reservoir / brake master cylinder reservoir hose that runs down to the master clutch cylinder or the pedal. So when I do plug it, it shouldn't drain all my brake fluid or undo it. And it should. There's a little, I don't know if you can see that, there's a thing right here. And that should come off with some picks. So I'm gonna go play around with it, and hopefully I can figure it out, because I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing, but it'd be great to be able to get it off. So that's the next thing on the docket. All right, so this is the clip. It goes in. As I'm holding it, it slides in this way. So I was able to get a pick and just slide it out. Went flying, and I already found it again. So this line should be able to slide off now, but I'm gonna hold off on doing that until I get a drip pan down here or something. All right, hopefully you can see in there, but that is the line that I'm talking about. Now it's detached and dripping a little bit of fluid, but nothing too crazy. So I think hopefully that stopper up there is doing the trick. Alrighty, so next up, I got one more bolt to pull out, and then I'm pretty sure I'm able to start sliding and wiggling this thing back, start getting it off. So that's the next step, and the last bolt's on the other side. So I'm gonna flip it back to time lapse. Hopefully nothing crazy happens, and we'll start getting this thing wiggled out of here. All right, so I've been screwing around with it for a bit, trying to get the stinking trans out. What I need to have happen is the engine to tilt further backwards. So I've got supercharger clearance back there, but I can't get the whole thing to tilt. And I was doing a little research, some Googling, and I don't know if you can see, there's a motor mount on the other side of these things. One here that you can access pretty easily without moving anything, and one underneath the airbox. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the airbox. Mine's pretty easy. Bolt here, get this off, pop the line out, mass airflow, filter, and there's 2 or 3 little bolts here, and that'll give me clearance to get to my thing down there. So I'm not going to show that on camera. It's pretty easy, and then well, time lapse or whatever, and then we'll go ahead and keep going. So I need this thing to tilt back about a good inch or 2, and I'm really not getting it any other way, so here goes nothing. All right, so hopefully you can see that right there. So that's one bolt. Pretty easy to get to. I think it's a 14 or a 13 if I remember last time. The other one's right there. So gonna loosen those guys up, and hopefully it gives me enough clearance to get this thing out of here. All right, so transmission is out. Well, a couple little things. So what I ended up doing, taking as you saw, I took that transmission jack. I knew it was gonna be too tall, but I got it because I wanted the tilt feature, which turned out to be very necessary. And I was able to line it up with this flat edge and one of these flat edges, tilted enough to get some clearance. It's getting hung up on all sorts of crap with these bumps and burrs. It is not a fun time. So that's that. This one actually seems to just be an air hole or something. I'm half tempted to grind some of this down, but we'll see. I'm not gonna just jump to stuff like that. But there we have it. So that's done. That worked out. I did put a jack underneath the motor in the front after undoing those bolts, and I have a piece of wood under there that goes between the oil pan. Not much pressure, just a little bit. So kind of sketchy, but if it falls out, I mean, literally nothing bad's gonna happen. I'll just lose a little bit of clearance, so I'm not too worried about it. And I tilted it back just a little bit more, which seemed to help. Honestly, man, this thing is just a turd. To get it in and out, I'm sure putting it back in is going to be awful. So, like I said, throwout bearing is going to get replaced with a new one. Pilot bearing looked pretty good. I poked my head in there. Looked fine. I think I'm having some oil coming out of there from the rear main, so I'm going to definitely replace the rear main seal. I mean, it's looking at, 15, 16 years at this point. Somewhere in that range. 2024, 2007. Yeah, we're getting up there. And also a massive amount of clutch dust, which is to be expected after everything we've been doing. So definitely gonna send the RXT off for a rebuild, and that's about it. I think that's gonna be it for this video. Transmission's out. I gotta go ahead and remove the RXT. You can see my face and everything. It's dirty under there. I have not cleaned under that car in a long time, and a couple of thousand miles of daily driving kind of shows itself. So I'm gonna pull the RXT out. I'm gonna get that sent off. I'll pick up in the next video when we pull that out. Probably replace the pilot bearing. Next video is gonna be kind of like almost like little side quests of just stuff that needs to happen. I'm gonna do brakes and a few other random knickknacks. Obviously the actual transmission rebuild, but I'm gonna do that in the meantime while I'm waiting for the clutch to come back, drop the drive shaft off. I got a whole list of stuff I wanna do to make sure everything in the drivetrain is squared away. So definitely getting there. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this far in the video, and feel free to like, subscribe, and we'll keep on chugging. This took a lot longer than it should have, in my opinion. The two top bolts along the top of the transmission, these two guys trying to snake your arm around here between the wherever the freaking trans tunnel is and getting the thing lined up on here was awful. Once it is lined up, there's enough clearance here, you can get the straight up bar without without being much of an issue. But it is a problem. So this is our transmission vent. I know this has leaked at least once, so a little bit of fluid stuff coming out of there. And yeah, other than that though, she's all right. Nothing crazy. MGW to replace this whole extra piece of linkage. So yeah, we'll see if we want to worry about that or not. I don't plan on buying an MGW right now, but it'd be a good time to do it if I was. So that's that. Once again, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Crazy how I went to car show earlier today and now the transmission's out. Doing great.